Hello, I hope you're doing great today. In this episode, I'm going to strike a very important subject that I am sure will resonate with each and everybody here who is listening at this episode. Fears. We are going to talk about type of fears that exist when we want to launch ourselves into something new or when we have to assume some new responsibility and what mental programs we may be associating with these fears. Now, this episode has a lot of constructive information and will help you tremendously to realize what fear is holding you back. So stay until the end of this video or this podcast. And now that you're here, take advantage of subscribing so that you don't miss any episode on mental programming for success. So is there really such a thing as launching yourself into something new without any fear? That thing of, I'm going to wait until everything is ready and controlled before taking any action, or I will do it when I feel safe and I will have all the tools I need. No, that doesn't exist completely. No one is 100% ready to launch their company, or to be a manager for the first time, or to be parents, or to invest in the stock market or in real estate, or to create their social media channels, or to run for president of your community, or to raise their rates. And if somebody tells you that they are holding something back, and yes, that person is also afraid. The reality is this: fears will always be present. The key is not to wait until you are not afraid to take action, is to take action despite of the fear. It is knowing how to navigate them and to live with them, because fears are an alert system that have been anchored in our belief system and in our neurology for many years. And we have unconscious reflex that protects us against any dangerous situation, and fear is one of them. This fight or flight system is one of the oldest of those systems that used to be activated when we were facing a predator, and depending on the size of the predator or the claws it had, we unconsciously decide that it was better to fight or flight. This system was super useful, and in fact it was life or death. However, the lifestyle we currently have today doesn't require us to activate systems that are anchored in our reptilian brain, which is the oldest of our brains. This is a system that will not disappear. So we have to resort to our intellect and the management of our emotions, which is the cortical brain and the limbic brain, which will allow us to discern if we really have to fight or flight, or if we simply navigate the situation calmly despite fear. So here I'm going to leave you with some of the most common fears that emerge when we are facing a new situation, whether it is a desired situation or if it comes as a surprise. Now, the first one is the fear of change or fear of the unknown. In the episode 9, we talk a lot about why change costs so much and the fears associated with it. So I recommend you to listen to it if this fear is something that you identify yourself with. Now, the fear of change is actually the fear of the unknown. Change forces us to leave our comfort zone, where we are calm, when we know everything, when we know everyone, when we already have a job and a life rhythm that comes naturally to us and even unconsciously. Change comes to move this all, and it leaves us with that feeling of not knowing, not having the tools, not being able to control things, and it exposes us and makes us feel vulnerable. So it is normal to feel afraid. It is part of the process of change and growth. But fear of change can manifest in many ways, and it can even lead us to somatize. Now, I have a friend who was preparing to pass her driving license, and she was so afraid of the driving test that she developed an almost inexplicable tendonitis. She was under 20 years old and without any related hereditary disease. What a mystery! Why did she have developed tendonitis that prevented her from using her hands correctly? Was that the fear of driving? I guess it was. That is somatizing. And it happens a lot in context of fear of change, when we do not believe that we have the necessary resources to face the unknown, and then it's better to avoid it. Here is where the fight and flight system returns, so better to run and evade Up to you. Another fear is the fear of failure. We've also raised this issue of fear of failure in a previous episode. So if you want to find out more, watch the episode called I Failed, Now What? Now, failure is part of life and is necessary for growth. But how we are afraid of it. And no matter how much we repeat to ourselves that in order to succeed, we have to fail many times, that word failure still makes us tremble. And well, it's normal as well. The feeling of not having the expected results, of losing money, of somebody rejecting you, of putting your energy and time into something that doesn't work, well, that's not pleasant. Almost always the programs associated with fear of failure will be things related to making the fool out of yourself or being exposed in your social circle, somebody telling you, I told you so, and feeling ashamed in front of that person, or losing everything you have and not being able to recover it later. And if the ego attacks is, I'm never going to be able to forget that I failed and that failure would haunt me my whole life, that's heavy. No wonder why you feel fear. Now, another fear that we can see is the fear of success. And yes, as you can guess, there is also another episode of Fear of Success. So basically, you better follow the podcast or the YouTube channel and you will have all the resources there. Well, the fear of success is associated with not identifying yourself with the person you become by being successful and not being able to handle the responsibilities that arise in that successful situation. There are also strong associations with money, and being successful for some people means having money, and there is also possible to feel fear, things like people will only look for me out of interest and things like that. Now, the fear of success is also worse than fear of failure in the moment when it touches a point about your identity. You don't see yourself, you don't identify yourself, you don't project yourself with success. And so it may also touch a matter of self-confidence when you don't feel you deserve success or that you don't have a way to maintain it, and if you have it, it's because you were lucky. So these all are programs associated with this fear. There is also the fear of loneliness. When we embark on something new and we have to assume a new responsibility, this fear of loneliness also arises and is associated with being exiled from your circle and therefore from your security zone. It happens a lot to new managers who get promoted and their old colleagues are now their subordinates. Does that sound familiar? And also to new entrepreneurs whose friends are all employees, or people who embark on healing and spiritual paths that nobody understands, and also people who decide to invest and the rest of the world keeps telling them that they're crazy, the economy is not good for that. And wow, there are so many cases. I'm sure you've identified with some of this. Now, the fear of loneliness is 100% associated with the sense of not belonging, with being rejected and not fitting in. Now, we've known this for many years in psychology. This is a basic need of all human beings, and we need each other to be able to live in community and to survive, hence the fear. We are running out of time, and I wanted to talk to you about the fear of I was wrong, which, by the way, is not a repetition. I'm not talking about fear of failure here. This is something else that is different and is extremely interesting that blocks you as you cannot imagine. So what I promise you is that I will talk about it in the next episode, where I will continue to develop most common fears that emerge throughout life and when we those that we have to recognize and know how to navigate. So I'll be seeing you in the next episode.